It's Comrade Xander. This is Leninist Rules, and today we're going to do a different kind of video. I haven't talked about current events in a while, but I decided to make this specifically for Elizabeth Warren fans and supporters. So if you are an advocate of Elizabeth Warren, this video is for you specifically. And with that being said, I have a couple of questions that I would like to ask you. Out of all the candidates, don't you find it peculiar that she is given the most time to talk on the debate stage out of anybody there? Don't you find it interesting that news pundits are taking things that Bernie said and falsely attributing those quotes to Elizabeth Warren?
I get a little bit tired, I must say, of people defending a system which is dysfunctional, which is cruel. 87 million uninsured, 30,000 people dying every single year, 500,000 people going bankrupt. For what reason? They came down with cancer. I will tell you what the issue is here. The issue is whether the Democratic Party has the guts to stand up to the healthcare industry, which made $100 billion in profit, whether we have the guts to stand up to the corrupt, price-fixing pharmaceutical industry, which is charging us the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. And if we don't have the guts to do that, if all we can do is take their money, we should be ashamed of ourselves.
Thank you, Senator.
Isn't it interesting how the mainstream media seems to shower her with praise and support while constantly bashing Bernie?
For me, as, again, I'm not the political analyst here, but just as a woman, probably considered a somewhat moderate Democrat, Bernie Sanders makes my skin crawl. And I can't even identify for you what exactly it is, but I see him as sort of a not pro-woman candidate. And so having the two of them there, I don't understand young women who support him. And I'm hoping that having him next to her will help highlight that, because those are the people that if I were her, I would want to say, well, why are you supporting him and not me if you're going to choose between the two of us? Thank you very much. Well, that's your jam. Who else needs to fall back?
Bernie Sanders, fall back. Your year was 2016 and it really wasn't. Please get away from us. I just think it's like fetch.
Whoa.
It's not going to happen. He also, I think you're disheveled, you're unlikable, and you're pushy. And I don't think you should be leading anybody. If you couldn't control your campaign and what your employees were doing and harassing and paying women unfairly in your campaign, I don't know why you would lead a country or think you can. And we saw with the flipping of the House and everyone voting, everyone's really excited for young female candidates, especially women of color. And we need men to get as excited about women as women are. And that's the only way to do real change. And I'm kind of sorry, guys, but I'm just
Ceiling. There is nowhere to go, but there is no up to go. And all of those, I actually overheard someone saying that I thought was an interesting point, that basically at this point, if you are still supporting Sanders as opposed to Warren, it's kind of showing your sexism, because she has more detailed plans and her plans have evolved. I thought it was an interesting point, and I think there may be something to it.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's a good answer.
If you care about progressive policy and taking this country forward, then isn't it kind of bizarre that she voted for Donald Trump's defense budget in 2018? If she really cares about the progressive cause, then why did she back Hillary Clinton and endorse Hillary Clinton in 2016 over Bernie Sanders? In addition to voting for Donald Trump's defense budget and endorsing Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders in 2016, she also appears to be backpedaling on her initial statements on Medicare For All. Initially, she was in favor of the policy, but now she's backpedaling, saying that we need to have a more realistic, more feasible version of it. What this means is what she's actually in favor of is a public option. A shitty, watered-down version of Medicare for All that leaves all of the worst aspects of our current healthcare system intact. I hope you guys understand the implications of this. What she's really saying is that she's not actually going to fight for you or your best interests. She's not going to fight for what's right. She's going to fight for what's feasible within the confines, the limited realm and parameters of the status quo. And here's another one. Did you know that during her re-election bid in the Senate a couple of years ago, she raised a great deal of money from large campaign contributors and special interest money groups, special interest oligarchs? And now she is using that very same cash flow that she got during her re-election bid to finance her campaign in the 2020 election. And I mean, on top of that, I mean, she's not opposed to taking big money, dark money during the general. She just says she isn't going to do it during the primary. I'm going to be frank with you, liberal. Warren is compromised. She is part of the establishment and does not have your best interest in mind. Like Obama, she'll talk a lot of good game, but when it comes to be president, she's not going to fight for you. She's going to compromise on all of her promises, and she's going to continue the aggressive foreign policy that is responsible for the deaths and immiseration of countless millions of people everywhere. It literally doesn't make any sense to back Elizabeth Warren over Bernie Sanders. That is, if you care about policy substance. Because every policy position that she's in favor of now and that she supports now, Bernie Sanders has been in favor of and has been fighting for decades, long before it was politically convenient to say, be fighting for LGBT rights. Long before it was politically convenient to be fighting for women's rights, or the rights of racial and ethnic minorities, or fighting for single-payer healthcare, or being opposed to war, or standing up for workers' rights when no one else would. No, all the time that Bernie Sanders was actually out there fighting on behalf of the working class, she was a Republican. She was a Republican all the way up until the 1990s. In addition to being on the right side of history when everybody else was wrong, Bernie Sanders has a superior platform anyways. Once again, Bernie Sanders is in favor of Medicare for All, Elizabeth Warren is not. Bernie Sanders has the best anti-war voting record out of anybody in the US Parliament. Elizabeth Warren has just recently voted to raise our defense budget. Bernie Sanders wants to forgive all student loan debt, Elizabeth Warren does not. Bernie Sanders wants to forgive all medical debt, Elizabeth Warren does not. Elizabeth Warren wants to raise taxes on billionaires. Bernie Sanders says there shouldn't be billionaires in the first place. Elizabeth Warren has come out as being very pro-capitalist. In other words, she is aligned with the bourgeois, the capitalist class. Bernie Sanders has come out as a socialist. In other words, he's aligned with the working class. Could it not be any more obvious that her campaign just reeks of cynicism and opportunism? Could it be any more obvious? But if you're a liberal, I suppose you don't care about any of those things. You really don't care about policy. All you care about is having the first female president. That historic moment when we finally have the first female president of the United States of America. And listen, I want that moment to come too. But I don't want it to be someone who's going to fucking sell us out. Like, what does it matter if it's bourgeois feminism? Last we have the first female president. She's going to prove that women can be just as corrupt and warmongering and backstabbing of the working class as a man can. I mean, that's all it's going to prove. Yeah, a woman can do it too. Hooray! A woman can screw over working class people and screw over the country just like any other man can. Woo! Hooray! Awesome for us. Anyways, this has been my message to Warren supporters and Warren advocates. Please think critically about who you're supporting. Support somebody who's actually going to fight for your best interests and not somebody who is going to backpedal on their policies and is going to put a knife in your back and not actually fight for you when push comes to shove. And if you are somebody who doesn't really care, you're just voting for her because you want a woman and you don't want to rock the boat, well, if that's the kind of person you are, then this is all I have to say to you. I'm Comrade Xander. This has been Leninist Rules. Peace out.